For most people, Netflix is the go-to method of watching movies. It's economical and it's super convenient. This year, the streaming service has been pumping out a lot of original movies. But which one is the best? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. It's been a busy year. I watched more than 40 Netflix original movies, and I thought it would be pretty helpful to share my 10 favorite Netflix originals. So the next time you find yourself endlessly browsing Netflix at home, you'll know which originals to add and which ones to skip. And instead of boring you with an endless list of honorable mentions or the worst of Netflix, check out my Netflix original review playlist right here to get more specific reviews for the best and the worst of the streaming service. So keep in mind, I'm not ranking these movies on technical merit. Instead, these are just the movies I enjoyed the most and will probably watch again and again. So let's get right into my top 10 picks for favorite Netflix original movies of 2018. Starting off at number 10, Berg Box. This is one of the most recent releases on Netflix, and right now it's one of the most talked about movies on all of social media. It stars Sandra Bullock and is directed by Susanne Bier, and a lot of people have been taking this off as a rip-off of A Quiet Place, but really, it was a book long before A Quiet Place was a movie, so that discussion is kind of up in the air. I really enjoyed this movie. It was really tense, the way that they used the blindfolds to build suspense, and I don't know about you guys, but I really liked the fact that we never got to see the creatures. It just made it that much more scary. We could use our own mind to kind of freak ourselves out. It was great. But I will say the ending was a big disappointment, and had it been better, I probably would have had this a lot higher on my top 10 list. Coming in at number 9, The Night Comes For Us. Now this is a foreign language film, but it is one of the best action movies I had seen all year. Okay, the story's not that great, it really isn't, but the plot is thin enough to get us to some of the most incredible action sequences and most gory, violent sequences I've seen all year. A lot of the guys from this movie were from The Raid Redemption. You've got Joe Taslim, Iko Uwais. Incredible action. I highly recommend you guys check this movie out if you haven't. It's number 9 on my top 10 Netflix list. That brings us to number 8, Cargo. This stars Martin Freeman from The Hobbit and from the Sherlock series, and this is a post-apocalyptic zombie movie that's set in Australia. Now, the one thing that's really interesting about this movie is it's based on a short that was online a few years back that was hugely popular, had kind of the same premise, and if you're a fan of the zombie genre, you have to watch this. Martin Freeman gives an excellent performance, and this movie has an emotional factor that's so much more potent than any other zombie movie I've seen recently. It really tugs at those heartstrings. That brings us to number 7, Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Now this movie came out literally the second to last day or last day of the year, and it is one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had watching a movie. It's an interactive movie, it's the first of its kind for adults on the streaming service, and it's set in the same universe as Netflix's widely popular series, The Black Mirror. The thing I really liked about this movie is that we got to choose the path the main character went down. And yeah, it kind of felt a little gimmicky at first, but the whole idea of choosing really plays into the plot and the storyline. And you know, it's kind of fun to screw with this guy and see what you can do that will mess him up, or what will put him in really funny situations, or what will just kill him. It's really worth checking out, but the only annoying thing is that you gotta have the right hardware to use it. Some TVs don't support the format. I had to use my iPad. I've heard you can use PlayStations or Xboxes, so just make sure you check it out in the right format. It's a really cool and enjoyable immersive experience. That brings us to number 6, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Now this is from the Coen brothers, who have brought us some incredible movies over the years. The difference between this and their other works is this is an anthology movie that puts together a bunch of different stories in the Western genre. They're all different styles. There's a musical, there's one that's kind of horror. They're really awesome. I really enjoyed them. I will say the last of all the stories is the less interesting one, so if you've got to that point in the movie and you don't really like it, I would just shut it off from there on. But overall, it's a great Western and it's a lot of fun. If you love the Coen brothers, you've got to check it out. Coming in at number 5, Roma. Now I have to admit, from the get-go, all the trailers for this movie, I had zero interest in checking it out. It's in black and white, it's a foreign film, I just wasn't in the mood to check out an artsy-fartsy, independent Netflix movie. But I gave it a shot, and I have to tell you, it's a really good movie. For me, I started off thinking, oh, I don't like this, and then before I knew it, the movie was over and I was fully invested in all the characters. You hardly notice that there's subtitles. It's a really emotional story, and if you're a fan of any great dramas, you've got to check out Roma. That brings us to number 4, The Ritual. Now this movie caught me completely off guard. For the most part, all of the Netflix original horrors that I've seen are garbage. They're not that good. This is from director David Bruckner, who did The Signal and a segment on VHS. And it's about a bunch of tourist guys in Sweden that get sucked into this supernatural forest with some crazy weird stuff going on. It's so good. I know my pitch doesn't really sell it to you. You've got to check it out. If you're a fan of horror or even dark Norse mythology, you've got to check out The Ritual. It takes you down a path you wouldn't expect, and the big reveal at the end is pretty satisfying. That's why The Ritual is number 4 on my list. That brings us to number 3, The Outlaw King. Now, this was one of my most anticipated Netflix original movies of the year. It stars Chris Pine, and it kind of follows the same timeline that Braveheart, starring Mel Gibson, was on. It's not a direct sequel or even directly tied to the movie. It's kind of a continuation of that line of history. And let me tell you, the battles in this movie are incredible. There's one long tracking shot at the end of the movie that is so impressive. I mean, it's one of those things where if even this one person in the background makes the smallest mistake, they have to start the whole thing over. This movie's great. If you love this genre, this time period, you've got to check out The Outlaw King. That brings us to number 2. Now, this one won't be on a lot of people's top 10 lists, but this is still one of my favorite movies of the year. Kodachrome, starring Ed Harris and Jason Sudeikis and Elizabeth Olsen. It tells the story of an estranged father and son who, because of a diagnosis of cancer, are forced to reunite and go on this road trip adventure. It's really funny, it's really touching, and I have to admit, I feel like these guys should be nominated for something because it's such a good movie. It's just one of those movies that really makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and it's a great one to watch with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your significant other or any other family members. It's just got a good overall message, and it's a lot of fun. I was surprised how much comedy there was, and it was also balanced with really good emotional stuff. So be sure to check out Kodachrome. It's my second favorite Netflix original of the year. And that brings us to number 1. My favorite Netflix original movie of 2018 is 22nd of July. From the brilliant mind of director Paul Greengrass, this movie retells the tale of the deadliest mass shooting in Norwegian history. I'm not gonna lie to you, this movie is really hard to watch. It's really hard to watch a movie that's based on actual events because you know that there were real people and families that went through something so horrific like this. But I will say, this movie does not focus on the terror attack itself. It focuses more on the characters who were victims and how they healed and pulled themselves out of the darkness and overcame, essentially, the darkest moment in Norwegian history. This really is one of those movies that I feel like everyone should watch. It really opens your eyes to what's going on in the world out there. And on top of that, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie gets a lot of attention during awards season. So be sure to check out the 22nd of July. It's on Netflix right now. That's my number 1 favorite pick of the year. Well, that's it. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with my list? I'd love to see how you would rank your favorite Netflix original movies of the year. So go ahead, drop your rankings in the comments down below and let's discuss. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you want more 1-minute movie reviews, ranking videos, and other movie related content like this, please smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you won't miss out on future videos. And thank you so much, guys, for supporting me through my first entire year on YouTube. I really appreciate all the loyalty and all the comments. It means so much. Thanks again for watching. Let's hope 2019 is just as entertaining as 2018. And until next time, I'll see you guys at the movies.